Hi kids, and welcome back to yet another online Sunday School with Sprinkles for our fall season of 2020. I first wanted to recognize that we respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care and teachings about our earth. May we honor these teachings. I hope that everyone's had a smooth transition back to school and that everyone is keeping safe. For the next few weeks, our lessons will include themes of creation, and we will be discussing the importance of all of God's creations, like animals, trees, birds, and fish. This video will include the videos for September 13th, September 20th, and this Sunday, September 27th. I'm sorry that it's been such a delay on this video. It's been a very chaotic few weeks getting back into school and the routine of work, but hopefully this video will make up for that. Feel free to skip through this video to find each of the different lessons. I'll leave the timestamps in the description below. The first part of this video is for the lesson for September 13th. If you open the first envelope in your kit, you'll see pipe cleaners, pom-poms, a lid, and some green felt. Today we'll be making the Tree of Life and discussing why God created trees and how important they are to us. There will also be a reading of the Lorax. Feel free to skip through it to the next craft. So, onto trees. Even though we already appreciate the majesty of trees, understanding the true significance of their contribution is another matter. Yes, they're pretty to look at, and when their leaves go from emerald green to gold and orange and fiery red, they make a beautiful reminder of nature's changes. But what do trees do for the planet and everybody on it? Here are some reasons why trees are important to us. Trees help people to stay healthy. They remove 53 tons of carbon dioxide and 430 pounds of air pollutant annually. Trees give us food. From apples to oranges, fruiting trees feed people. Trees stop erosion. The root systems slow and stop rain runoff by absorbing excess water. This reduces the amount of soil that's washed into streams and lakes and thus decreases erosion. Can you think of any other reasons why trees are important? Next, on to why God made trees. If we look at Genesis 1:29-30, you find many examples of God creating trees and why they're important. God made trees with seed-bearing fruit. He gave us the possibility to increase their numbers by planting seeds. We needed to learn to do this to continue receiving their benefit. In Genesis 2, we see that God planted a tree in a garden, and in Genesis 2 again, he gave Adam the responsibility to tend to it, which means to manage it properly. Adam was to care for it. Trees need caring for so that they can bear fruit and benefit mankind, contributing to our overall welfare. With our care, trees could greatly help reduce global poverty. In Genesis 2 again, God gave both man and woman his first command, and it referred to the fruit of the tree, but they disobeyed. We see in the Gospels that Christ died on a tree for the forgiveness of our sins, so we can start again. In the book of Revelations, at the other end of the Bible, we find more references to trees. We'll have the right to eat all the trees of life, Revelations 2. If we overcome, as the Spirit of God shows us, trees are in the paradise of the Lord. In Revelations 22, we learn that the Tree of Life bears fruit crops 12 times a year, and its leaves are for healing of the nations. There are many trees with healing powers at our disposals now, which is a sign of God's provisions for us. What part do trees play in God's plan for people, for animals, and for the world? I ask you to think about this in your free time, just to contemplate on why God made trees and how they're helping us now, and what role they played in the Bible. As you can see in the video, I'm currently taking pipe cleaners and winding them up into the trunk of a tree and gluing them down. Feel free to follow along with all of our crafts. They're fairly straightforward. Any more complicated steps, I'll add in the description. Next, we'll be reading the Lorax by Dr. Seuss. Feel free to skip through this part to the next lesson if you don't want to read an entire book. It is rather long, so I'll leave all the different timestamps in the description so you can feel free to skip back and forth as you please. So now, the Lorax by Dr. Seuss. At the far end of town, where the gurgle grass grows, and the wind smells slow and sour when it blows, and no birds ever sing except for old crows in the street of the lifted Lorax. And deep in the gurgle grass, some people say, if you look deep enough, you can still see today where the Lorax once stood, just as long as it could, before somebody lifted the Lorax away. What was the Lorax, and why was it there, and why was it lifted and taken somewhere? From the far end of town where the grickle grass grows, the old Onceler lives there. Ask him. He knows. You won't see the Onceler. Don't knock at his door. He stays in the lurkum cold under the roof, where he makes his own clothes out of muffled moof. And on special dank midnights in August, he peeks out of the shutters, and sometimes he speaks, and tells how the Lorax was lifted away. He'll tell you, perhaps, if you're willing to pay. On the end of a rope, he lets down a tin pail, and you have to toss in 15 cents and a nail in the shell of a great-great-great-grandfather snail. He pulls up the pail, makes a most careful count, to see if you've paid him the proper amount. Then he hides what you've paid him away in his snub, his secret strange hole, and his groovyless glove. Then he grunts, I will call you by whisper-ma-phone, for the secrets I tell you are for your ears alone. Slurp! Down slips the Onceler's ma-phone to your ear, and the old Onceler's whispers are not very clear, since they have to come down through a sneakily hose, and he sounds as if he had smallish bees up his nose. Now I'll tell you, he says, with his teeth sounding gray, how the Lorax got lifted and taken away. It all started way back, such a long, long time back. Way back in the days when the grass was still green, and the pond was still wet, and the clouds were still clean, and the song of the swammy songs rang out in space. One morning I came to this glorious place, and I first saw the trees, the truffulous trees, the bright-colored tufts of the truffula trees, mile after mile in the fresh morning breeze. And under the trees I saw brown barbaloots, frisking about in their barbaloot suits, as they played in the shade and ate truffula fruits. From the ripulous pond came the comfortable sound of the humming fish humming while splashing around. But those trees, those truffula trees, all my life I've been searching for trees such as these. The touch of their tufts was much softer than silk, and they had the sweet smell of fresh butterfly milk. I felt a great leaping of joy in my heart. I knew what to do. I unloaded my cart. In no time at all, I had built a small shop. Then I chopped down a truffula tree with one chop, and with great skillful skill and with great speedy speed, I took the soft tufts and I knitted a sneed. The instant I finished, I heard a gazump. I looked. I saw something pop out of the stump of the tree I chopped down. It was sort of a man. Describe him? That's hard. I don't know if I can. He was shortish and oldish and brownish and mossy, and he spoke with a voice that was sharpish and bossy. Mister, he said with a sawdusty sneeze, I am the Lorax, and I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees have no tongue, and I am asking you, sir, at the top of my lungs. He was very upset as he shouted and puffed, What is that thing you've made out of my truffula tufts? Look, Lorax, I said, there's no cause for alarm. I chopped just one tree. I'm doing no harm. I'm being quite useful. This thing is a sneed. A sneed's a fine something that everyone needs. It's a shirt, it's a sock, it's a glove, it's a hat, but it has other uses, yes, far beyond that. You can use it for carpets, for pillows, for sheets, or curtains, or covers for your bicycle seats. The Lorax said, Sir, you are crazy with greed. There is no one on earth who would buy that fool sneed. But the very next moment, I proved he was wrong, for just at the moment a chap came along, and he thought that the sneed that I had knitted was great. He happily bought it for $3.98. I laughed at the Lorax, you poor stupid guy. You can never tell what people will buy. I repeat, cried the Lorax, I speak for the trees. I'm busy, I told him. Shut up, if you please. I rushed across the room, and in no time at all, I built a radiophone. I put in a quick call. I called all my brothers and uncles and aunts, and I said, Listen here. Here's a wonderful chance for the whole Onceler family to get mighty rich. Get over here fast. Take the road at North Nitch. Turn left on Weehawken, sharp right at Source Stitch. Then, oh, baby, oh, how my business did grow. Now chopping trees one tree at a time was too slow, so I quickly invented my super axe hacker, which whacked off 4 truffula trees in one smacker. We were making sneeds 4 times as fast as before, and the Lorax, he didn't show up anymore. But the next week, he knocked at my new office door. He snapped, I am the Lorax who speaks for the trees, which you seem to be chopping as fast as you please. But I'm also in charge of the brown barbaloots, who played in the shade in their barbaloot suits, and happily lived eating truffula fruits. Now, thanks to your hacking my trees to the ground, there's not enough truffula fruits to go round, and my poor barbaloots are getting the crummies because they have gas and no food in their tummies. They loved living here, but I can't let them stay. They'll have to find food, and I hope that they may. Good luck, boys, he cried, and he sent them away. I, the Onceler, felt sad as I watched them all go, but business is business, and business must grow, regardless of crummies and tummies, you know. I meant no harm, I most truly did not, but I had to grow bigger, so bigger I got. I biggered my factory, I biggered my roads, I biggered my wagons, I biggered my loads. Of thneeds I shipped out, I was shipping them forth, to south, to east, to west, to north. I went right on biggering, selling more thneeds. I biggered my money, which everyone needs. Then again he came back. I was fixing some pipes, when the old nuisance Lorax came back with more gripes. I am the Lorax, he coughed and he whiffed. He sneezed and he snuffled, he snargled, he sniffed. Onceler, he cried with a crofulous croak. Onceler, you're making such smogulous smoke. My poor swummy swans, they can't sing a note. No one can sing who has smog in his throat. And so, said the Lorax, please pardon my cough. They cannot live here, so I'm sending them off. Where will they go? I don't hopefully know. They may have to fly for a month or a year to escape from the smog you've smogged up around here. What's more, snapped the Lorax. His dander was up. Let me say a few words about Glupulus Glup. Your machine chugs on day and night without stop, making gluppity glup and sloppity slop. And what do you do with the leftover goo? I'll show you, you dirty old man Onceler, you. You're glumping the pond with the humming fish hummed. No more can they hum, for their gills are all glumped, so I'm setting them off. Oh, their future is dreary. They'll walk on their fins and get woefully weary in search of some water that isn't so schmeary. And then I got mad. I got terribly mad. I yelled at the Lorax, now listen here, Dad. All you do is yap, 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 and say bad, 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 bad. Well, I have a right, sir, and I'm telling you. I intend to go on doing what I do, and for your information, you Lorax, I'm figuring on biggering, and biggering, and biggering, and biggering, turning more truffula trees into sneeds, which everyone needs. And at that very moment, we heard a loud whack. From outside in the fields there came a sickening smack of an axe on a tree. Then we heard the tree fall, the very last truffula tree of them all. No more trees, no more sneeds, no more work to be done. So, in no time, my uncles and aunts, every one, all waved me goodbye. They jumped in their cars and drove away under the smuggered stars. Now all that was left neath the bad-smelling sky was my big company factory, the Lorax, and I. The Lorax said nothing, just gave me a glance, just gave me a very sad backwards glance, as he lifted himself by the seat of his pants. I'll never forget the grin on his face when he hoisted himself and took leave of this place, through the hole in the smog, without leaving a trace. And all the Lorax left here in this mess was a small pile of rocks with one word, unless. Whatever that means, well, I just couldn't guess. That was long, long ago, but each day since that day, I've sat here and worried away. Through the years, while my building has fallen apart, I've worried about it with all of my heart. But now, said the Onceler, now you're here. The word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. So, catch, calls the Onceler. He lets something fall. It's a truffula seed. It's the last one of all. You're in charge of the last of the truffula seeds, and truffula trees are what everyone needs. Plant a new truffula, treat it with care, give it clean water and feed it fresh air, grow a forest, protect it from axes that hack, then the Lorax and all of his friends may come back. That is the end of our Lorax reading, and coming up next, we will be doing our second part of our activity. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be doing a 5-day lesson plan called With Respect in Creation. So this is about the climate is changing, youth are striking, and all creation calls us to take action. This 5-session series invites you to learn more about what is happening to God's creation and how to take action as people of faith. So today we're going to be talking about some very specific quotes in the Bible, and this is what the same quote that we're going to apply to all of our different lessons. So This is job 12, 7 to 10. But ask the animals, and they will teach you. The birds of the air, and they will tell you. Ask the plants of the earth, and they will teach you, and the fish of the earth will declare to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In God's hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of every human being. This quote is going to be the quote that we're going to be referencing when we talk about our various lessons, and our first lesson of the day is Lesson 1, Ask the Animals. There is no kit for this lesson. There is simply a little booklet that has information about endangered species, so I encourage you to work on that booklet, try to match all the animals up, try to put things together, and as you do that, we're going to be working on our next craft. This craft is called a bug hotel. Now, you're probably wondering, what is a bug hotel? Well, a bug hotel is a structure that you put in your backyard, or your front yard, or in your windowsill, and it encourages the species of bugs near you and insects to come live there. It creates a bunch of nooks and crannies for them to start building their homes and stay safe for the winter, and it really helps the species near you to live comfortably. Things like bees, grasshoppers, ants, all sorts of bugs will end up living in there. So, one of the first things in our kit is a stuffy page. I want to hear about your favorite stuffy. My favorite stuffy is my teddy bear, which I got when I was 1. Her name is just Bear. And I've had her for a very long time, and you'll find all sorts of different questions that you need to answer on that kit, and I encourage you to do so. I encourage you, while you're making your bug hotel, to think about some of the important things that animals offer to the world. You might enjoy hearing or talking about the benefits of balance and biodiversity, and the reintroduction of the gray wolves, for example, and how that's helping the parks in Western USA. I would look that up. It's really cool and fascinating. Biodiversity, the word, is simply a variety of life on Earth. Part of this lesson is talking about the importance of God's creations of animals and insects into our world. Can you tell me why animals are important? How do animals help you live your day-to-day lives? What would happen if we were to lose, let's say, the honeybees? If you want, you can research what would happen if we lost honeybees from our circle of life. What would happen? What would be the ultimate consequences of that? It's really interesting to look at, and I highly suggest that you do. If you're wanting to watch things that relate to this specific learning, I can recommend The Adventures of Milo and Otis, Born Free, Homeward Bound, Pandas, The Journey Home, and Once Upon a Forest. All these movies are wonderful movies that help integrate our jobs quote, as well as the ideas of Ask the Animals. I also would like to connect this lesson back to our previous lesson, and you can read the Lorax, because it talks about what happens to species when we pollute our earth and we cut down their trees, and everything in life and on earth is connected. And that's part of this lesson plan, is to show you that every aspect of life and of God's creations connect together. So feel free to go back and rewatch that book as many times as you want, because it will connect to every single one of these lessons. So, in conclusion, give thanks to God for all of the creatures of the earth. Give thanks for all who care for animals. Request God's help in listening to the animals and learning how to care for them. In this video, you're going to see that I use a box, and I fill it with all sorts of nooks and crannies and little sections for animals and bugs to go into. Now, my only request to you is that if you use sticks or broken pieces of pot, as I have, or bricks that have cut edges, please be very careful, as these are sharp and can hurt you. Ask an adult for supervision while you're doing this. You can give it a little sign, you can give it a little name, and I put mine out in my garden, and hopefully the bugs will start living in there. I'll keep you posted. Our next lesson plan, and the plan for this Sunday, the 27th, is The Birds of the Air Will Tell You. This is again going off of the job quote, which I will reread, and we're going to be talking about the animals and we will be talking about the birds of the earth. So, our jobs quote, just to refresh our brain, is, "But ask the animals, and they will teach you, the birds of the air, and they will tell you. Ask the plants of the earth, and they will teach you, and the fish of the sea will declare to you. Whom among all of these does not know the hand of the Lord has done this? In God's hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of every human being." So this week we're going to be talking about the birds. So I have created a little kit for you. There is another envelope. It has "The birds of the air will tell you" written on the sticker. When you open it up, you're going to find pieces of felt and paper clips, and this is going to be our craft for the day. Today we're going to be making felt birds. Feel free to follow along as the video goes on, and I will talk about our lesson. If at any point you want to follow along with what I'm doing on screen, but you need some time to work on it, feel free to pause. There is no rush to complete these projects. You're welcome to stop and go do something else and come back to them. This video will be up indefinitely, so it's always here for you to view it. So today we're going to talk about the birds of the air. One of the things I suggest that you do is you go outside and collect, or if you already have available to you, some natural materials to make a bird's nest. So this includes grass, sticks, and other tools, and you're going to weave them together to make a little bird's nest, and then you can put that bird's nest in the trees around your yard and see if one of the birds will use them. This might be a little challenging in the fall because the birds have all migrated or are hibernating for the winter, so it might be too late to do this, but we can touch base on it in the spring. I also recommend that you sit quietly and listen to birdsong first thing in the morning when they wake up and the sun's coming up. So I recommend that you do and just admire God's creation of birds and how beautiful they are. Okay, so my question to you kids is what the world might look like or what it'll miss if there were no more birds. Besides the enjoyment of watching and listening to birds, birds are important in keeping down certain insect populations, and they also helpful in the spread of certain fruits and plants that humans eat. I encourage you to explore the differences among vulnerable, endangered, and extinct species. You can do this by simply looking up vulnerable birds in Canada, and I want you to find a couple examples and send them to me. I want to know that you're researching these birds because it's our job as humans and as part of God's creation to take care of one another, and we are obviously causing a lot of harm to our earth, so we need to do our part to keep them safe. The main cause of bird endangerment and extinction is human activity. Humans destroy the bird habitats through encroachment, where we want to live on land that is wildland, logging, pollution, using pesticides and herbicides, etc. So I encourage you to find out what you can do to help the birds in your neighborhood. Some of the extinct birds from Canada are the great auk, Labrador duck, and the passenger pigeon. We have a couple endangered species too, so the whopping crane, Eskimo curlew, northern bobwhite, harlequin duck, spotted owl, mountain plover, piping plover, king rail, and so on. There's so many. And vulnerable we have the eastern bluebird, the tundra peregrine falcon, Copper's hawk, ancient I don't know how to say that, great gray owl, and the trumpeter swan. So I encourage you to find some of these birds and see what you can do to potentially help them. If you're wanting to find some movies that connect to this theme, I can suggest to you, I'm going to put all this in the description, so if you want to watch a movie that connects to the theme after you've made your creations for the week, I suggest Fly Away Home, Happy Feet, Free Birds, or Rio. These are all wonderful movies. I especially love Rio, and I think they're great for learning about birds and having a good time. For books, you could read Endangered and Extinct Birds, which is a book about endangered birds, obviously. The Kids Canadian Book by Pamela Hickman. Any of the National Geographic's book are wonderful to read in connection to this lesson. So what is our conclusion from this lesson? Give thanks to God for birds and all the flying creatures of the earth. Give thanks for all who care for the birds. Request God's help in listening to the birds and learning how to care for them. In this video, you're going to see me cut felt into the shape of birds and attach them to paper clips. This is very easy craft. It's not hard at all, and I recommend you make some. You can make some for someone who is feeling a little lonely during this time of COVID. So you can send them to them in the mail. I sent mine to my grandma, and it's a wonderful little present for them to have. I'll post some links in the description to other crafts you can do that help the bird population near you. I recommend putting up a bird feeder, putting up some little nests for birds or bird houses. Even if it's not out, if you don't have a backyard, just attach them to your windowsill. The birds will thank you. That is all of our crafts and activities for this video. I know it's super long and I apologize, but I wanted to catch up all the crafts that I'd missed for the last few weeks. So I hope that everyone is having a great first few weeks back to school and that everyone is staying safe with the new restrictions with COVID. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the crafts in your kits, feel free to message me. I will post my information in the description, and in your kits, in that paper that talks about what this lesson plan is going to look like, it has my contact information too. Originally, we were supposed to go back October 4th, but the church has postponed that until October 18th. If something else happens and we postpone again, I will let you all know and keep you posted. So until next time, have a wonderful weekend. See ya.